Hi and welcome back to Flint Hills. I'm Jeff. In this video I'm going to continue to share with you phases 3 and 4 of the layout build, and to also demonstrate how I go about preparing and running a Loco on my layout, and I'll be using a second-hand Class 66 that just arrived this morning. As I focused on phase 1 and phase 2 in the last video, today I'm going to just focus on the phase 3, install the automatic reverse loop, and phase 4, which was the train detection capability. In DCC, you can't simply run a loco or train around a loop and back onto itself, as this would effectively short circuit the layout. So what you really need to do is to create what's known as a reversing loop. And my reversing loop is the S shape you see right in the middle of the layout, that giant S shape. It's key that you ensure this reversing loop is insulated from the rest of the layout, which I did here and here. What's also important is to ensure the reversing loop is longer than the longest train you wish to run, otherwise it will short circuit the layout. Now, to prevent the loco or the train from shorting your DCC layout, you need to install a reverse loop module. Speaking to James at DCC Train Automation, he recommended the LS5410 reverse loop module, which was so simple to install. As you can see, it takes the input from your track bus and the output goes directly to the tracks that are insulated on that reverse loop, and the module does all the switching necessary to stop any short circuits. So moving on to train detection and what I've done here at Flint Hills. I've actually split the layout up into effectively blocks. So each siding that you can see down here is a block. So this particular siding is completely isolated there, and I've actually insulated both rails using the plastic fish plates. And if I move along, I've actually insulated the track here where it meets that point as well, right where the bright red LED is. So that is one block where the Pretendolino is actually sitting. What I've done though is I've actually split that block into effectively two with two feedbacks. So there's a feedback for this half of the siding, and there's another feedback for this half of the siding. So basically, as the train comes into the sidings through here, it detects that the train has entered that siding, and it will continue all the way along, and then here where my board actually joins is where it actually then trips over onto the other detection. So along this point here, it's now registered, the train's moved onto this section. Okay, so it knows exactly where the train is, where it is in that siding, and that's the same for all the sidings here. But it's slightly different where I've done the station. To give myself more control, again, that is one block from there right the way down to the end of that platform. But regarding feedbacks, there's actually three. So it knows when the train is entering the station, it knows when it's at the middle of the station, and it knows when it's approaching the end of the station for the buffers. So the computer and the train detection part knows totally where the train is again at that point. And that is basically the same for the entire layout. And including the reversing loop that you can't see now because it's literally underneath, that is also on a feedback. And that feedback is, again, just so I can see when the train is on that feedback, it indicates it to us. Each feedback on the layout is numbered. So for this particular section, from here right the way down to there, that's number 41. And then from here down to here is 39. So at the moment there's a train sitting, the Loco is sitting on that section of track, and if we look at the screen you can actually see that number 41 is highlighted in blue to say there's detection onto there. And as I move the train across onto the other, it goes off of 41 onto 39. So it knows exactly that that train has moved across onto there. So we can actually see that nice feedback. So looking how the train detection works on iTrain, as the actual train moves into that siding, you can actually see a little red light has just appeared there, and that tells me that the train has actually entered into that section of track. And as we progress through, you'll see it will enter into the other one, and in there it actually shows me the decoder number 57, and it knows if that's the decoder number, that's going to be my Virgin 57 that's now in that block. So that's how train detection works, and I can see where each train is on each part of the track. So let's quickly just have a look at how this is actually wired up. The main buzz wires which come out of the DR5000, which could be any central command unit, one of those goes up to one of the rails which has a permanent connection right the way through, and the other one goes up and goes across and into the DR4088, and from there each is 8 on each side outputs, and each 8 making 16 outputs per unit goes off to the different sections of track which I am detecting. So in this picture here you can see I've actually got 32 pieces of track that are able to be detected. As soon as the train is detected, the feedback through that module registers a Loco net connection, which is shown here in that black solid line, and each unit is just simply daisy chained up on a Loco net connection. So here is one of the units actually wired up. You can see right in the middle where the two seeds are, that's where the actual track feed comes through, and it's just looped around. And on each side, numbered 1 to 8 is the feedbacks there, and 9 to 16 are the feedbacks there. And the two LocoNet connectors is what goes back down, and you can see the two holes I've actually drilled in the board. That's where the cable goes through the hole and connects back up to the DigiKeys central box, or further on to another LocoNet box. So I'll leave the update of the layout at this point, and in the next video I'll talk about how I built the upper section and the incline, and how I put together the platforms of the upper section, and yeah, that will really start to bring us up to not far off where we are, and I can start to share with you what I've started to think about on the scenic side, some of the ideas which I've got, and obviously I can give some praise to some other YouTube video people here who I've nicked their ideas, which is what it's all about, I guess. And then we can talk about the scenic area that I'm thinking about doing down the front. But let's go and have a look now at this Class 66 that's arrived today, and how I prepare it to get it run onto the layout. So here's the Class 66 that arrived today, and obviously we can get it out of the packaging and have a look. So I've unboxed our Class 66, and I first remove the actual cover off the train, nice and gently, and I can see that it's actually come fitted with a decoder. I'm going to remove that decoder, and I'm going to install a blank to make it DC running. There we go, hope you could see that. And that's it. Now what I do is I also then inspect it and look at the actual wheels and give them a good clean. So what do I use for cleaning the wheels? I have a nice little wheel cleaner that sits on top of my little test track here, and there we go, it cleans the wheels for me. Turn it round, and that's those wheels cleaned. What I will do now is I'll put a small drop of oil just on each of those little gears there. So having got this little bit of foam, and I've cut a little section out of it, I can now just put the Loco in there, and I have my lube, and I can just put little minute drops on each one, and that's it. So how do I go about running in this train? Well, I've got the DC Concepts rolling road, which I put on my little test track here, and I'll put the Loco on. You know what Engage is like, it's always fiddly. And then we can run it up to speed. Now what I would typically do is I would run it for half an hour in one direction, and then run it for half an hour in the other direction, and that way I know then there's no mechanical issues, there's no split gears before we start fitting decoders back into the machine and then running it on the layout. So I'm going to run this now for about an hour, and then I'll come back to you on the next part of the process that I do. So whilst that train is running in, I thought I'd just quickly talk about decoders. And here we have one of these under £10 decoders, which I think we're all fairly familiar with, that you can purchase from eBay. I've not had a real problem with them, and I still use them, but mainly in the dummy power cars, just to power the lights. I don't now use them at all for any of the running Locos, and I'll explain about that later on. The next one is a DCC Concepts Zen. I've had good and bad with these, unfortunately. I've had a few go wrong for no apparent reason whatsoever. This one here is the Train-O-Matic decoder. Again, no problem with them, very happy with those. And we've got our blue one that's just came with the with that class 66. So I do not know what make that is. So what I'm going to do now is go away and find out what make that actually is. So when it comes to programming decoders, I find this little piece of kit absolutely unbelievable. It's made by ESU. There is others on the market, and I think they're about 40, 50, 60 pound around that bracket. But it just makes life so much simple and not having to keep poking around with Locos. So I've taken that blue decoder that just arrived in my class 66, put it into the 651 slot. Okay, now when I go across to my software here, let's just read what's on that decoder. Oh, so it's set at 3, so someone's already set it at the default. But let's look at the manufacturer. So if I put in CV number 8 in there, and we read CV number 8, it's come back with 141. So I have a little list here, and if I look down my list here of 141, there it is. It's actually a company called Throttle Up Soundtracks, and I've had one of those before, hence why it's underlined. And I've made a note there that if I set CV8 to 8, it actually resets that particular module. So what I'm going to do is actually reset that module anyway. I won't be using it in this train, as I said before, because I'm going to use the Zimo. So we'll program up the Zimo any second. Well, having seen all the others, the decoder that I'm going to install today is this Zimo MX617N, and that will go straight in perfectly. I've not had any problems with these Zimos, and the control is just unbelievable. and for me they've got the addition of Railcom, so that gives me the feedback from the decoder number back to my iTrain system. So having reset the other chip, I've now placed my brand new Zimo into my little programmer, and if we go across to my screen here, we can actually read it just to make sure. Yep, that's come back and it's the default of 3. Now I want to program that up to be 6611 because that's effectively the Loco number. So let's hit that. And that's done. That's come back as an OK. Now what's useful with this is we can actually test drive the decoder. So if we go into 6611, we can put the throttle on. And on here, there's actually a little motor spinning. And we can see it's going forward. So if I actually now change the direction, you can see it's now going backwards. And what I can also do is actually check the lights. So yep, we've got it going backwards and forward. So we know the functions on that decoder are all working before we even put it into the actual train. So once it's in the train, we know we've got no problems with the decoder. Any problems is going to be the Loco itself. Okay, so let's get it into that Loco. So there is the Zimo decoder installed into our 6611. What we'll do now is we'll pop that lid back on and we'll get it running on the layout. So to end this video, I can think the best way is to leave this some running shots of that second-hand train that we've got a brand new decoder in running through with some EWS plugs there. And there's the other 66 that I've got with some more EWS rolling stock. So do please like and subscribe to my channel, and also give me feedback on what you would like to see going forward. As you can see, I've got lots of scenery to do, lots of static glass to put down, and I've got my finger up in the air for a new static applicator. So hopefully we'll get that for my birthday very soon. So thank you everybody, take care and stay safe.